I'm Roberta Glass, and today I'm going to be talking to you about NXIVM cult leader Keith Raniere's bail hearing. So I went down to the Brooklyn Federal Courthouse today to get a front row seat at Keith Raniere's bail hearing. Now, the bail application from his lawyers was really wild, and it is online. I will try to pin it in the comment section if I can. And it starts out saying, you know, the government is being a morality policeman, essentially. I'm paraphrasing. Morality policeman by stopping hundreds of women from fulfilling themselves with this wonderful NXIVM program. Yes, it's a little unconventional, but it's helped millions of women. And the, not millions, I think they say, you know, lots of women, lots of people. This, as I said before, it works for me, or it's really helpful. It may seem wacky, it's really helpful, is the talking point of every cult everywhere. So to try to get this dangerous cult leader out of jail, on bail, they proposed $10 million from a trust, from money, just a trust, not saying where the money's from, and armed guards to watch Keith Raniere to assure that he wouldn't flee. And the state rebutted wrote a rebuttal, and they were like, this dude is dangerous. He should not be out on bail, since when he was caught in Mexico, he was evading the law, and he was using different burner phones and firewalls to, an encrypted email to hide in Mexico. So this guy is like prime candidate to flee. That's what they wrote back. So I had some sense of what the argument would be in court today. What I was not prepared for as I came into court, and of course it's very intimidating. It's a big building with glossy marble, very clean, very, high ceilings, intimidating building, as all, courthouses tend to be. Came up in there, and I was ushered in with some interns, legal interns, and there was one seat in the front row seat with, a whole lot of room that nobody seemed to want on the right-hand side. And I was like, oh, great, I guess people are really feeling shy. I'm not feeling shy. I'll sit there. And as I sat down and I put my purse on the floor and I'm looking up, and first I see the jean jacket. And then I see this mousy brown hair in this very neat bun, ponytail type bun cascading down her back, and this gray skin and this kind of gaunt, hollow, gray face. And almost like you could look right through her. And the jean jacket is really what clued me in. I was like, oh my gosh, that's Allison Mack. Allison Mack is here, and I just had not put two and two together that she's a co-defendant and that she would have to be there for Keith Raniere's bail hearing. And you really don't get the full impact of her craziness, I guess, until you see her. I wasn't actually expecting crazy. That's what I got, was a crazy, gaunt, empty, emaciated human being, and her attitude during the hearing was sort of like someone who had been pulled in. Maybe they had not been disposing of their garbage, some sort of like small infraction, something like maybe they didn't have their dog on the leash, or they got too many parking tickets or something. That was sort of her level. She was sort of mildly a little bit tense and sort of mildly annoyed that she was there, but I was very surprised at the lack of emotion, the lack of human expression. I also got the feeling she was seemed extremely detached. That was the word. Detached and gaunt and gray. Those were like the words that I came away with. So I was really like the closest person to her, just looking at her. And it took a while. The hearing started. We all stood up for the judge. And, Keith Raniere, between Allison Mack and Keith Raniere's lawyers, they have a bunch of guys and a few women, a lot of lawyers on the right-hand side. So I'm on the NXIVM side, sitting on the NXIVM side. And on the state side, it looks like as if the Charlie's Angels of prosecutors. There are all these young women, attractive young dark-haired women in black suits, 3 of them representing the state, the prosecutors. And it was just so amazing to see Keith Raniere up against these women, prosecuting him. So that was, visually it was interesting and, of course, ironic, sort of like, finally he has to pay, face up to what he has done, pay up. And so the arguments start, and his lawyer starts arguing his case and saying, we're going to have $10 million bail, we're offering $10 million, and we're offering these armed guards. And then the judge starts asking very pointed questions about, oh, there's Mr. Softy Truck, the armed guards. And it's like an 11-year-old boy explaining to his father the plot of his science fiction short story that he just wrote. And as the judge asks more and more questions, or as the father would ask more and more questions, it becomes like painfully clear to everyone how outrageous this request is and how out of touch, outrageous, and sort of surreal it is. So the judge is asking, like, well, are the armed guards so Raniere won't escape, or are they for the press, to keep the press out? And his lawyer says, well, the armed guards are just kind of the icing on the cake, Your Honor. And boy, did that go over like a lead balloon. I mean, it was just, at some points, I think the judge suggested that they should also get a karate expert, and the whole courtroom exploded into laughter. So that did not, it was clear early on that he was not going to get this bail. And you always just have the slightest fear that the judge is going to make some kind of crazy decision and let him out. The other very strange thing was that everybody in the courtroom knew that the $10 million bail that was being offered wasn't being offered from a trust, because Keith Raniere already had declared his income at zero and declared his assets as owning half of a house, somewhere in New York State. So he was clearly not coming from him, and he wasn't earning anything. So it was clear to everybody that it was Claire Bronfman that they were talking about, but they couldn't say her name. And the judge just said, well, we know who we're talking about here. And the prosecutor said, well, she, started to describe Claire, and the judge corrected her and said, well, he or she. And that became really the sticking point in the bail, is that Keith Raniere has no family to sign for him, and no stake in whether, he doesn't care whether Claire Bronfman loses her $10 million and the millions that she's spending for armed guards, former police officers, to guard Keith Raniere. And it really sounded, the more they said armed guards, it was hard to picture armed guards doing anything but helping him escape. Not protect, helping him from flee. I mean, people who have armed guards, think about it. It's not usually, in the usual sense, to keep them in. It's to keep other people out, So that was interesting. Then the judge said, well, everything I know about this case, I know from reading the New York Times Magazine. That is the New York Times Magazine article that I discussed in my previous video. The New York Times doesn't know what a cult is, which is this love letter to Keith Raniere. So that was really scary. So there was a point where my heart sunk, and I was like, oh, geez, is this guy going to think that this is some kind of benign organization, and is he going to let him go? But I thought, no, these terms of this bail are too crazy. But it also got me a little bit afraid for the trial, but I know that the facts are so damning. But you have to say that it's a little concerning that he's read that article, and that's his first introduction, is this glowing introduction to NXIVM. So that was a concerning part of the trial, and you get a sense, what I always believed, which is that the outside really does affect these. We like to think of the court as in this bubble, but it's really not. But that was a good example of how it's not, that the press has some power in these cases. Of course, the most explosive revelation of the bail hearing was that there will be more indictments coming this week. This is an ongoing investigation, so we should be expecting some more people to be arrested and indicted this week. So, I mean, of course, the Bronfmans are on the top of my list, and Nancy Saltzman. Those would be in the crosshairs, but maybe there's some other people that I've overlooked. And they're expecting this to be a 3-month trial, and they're having another hearing July 25th, on Wednesday, July 25th, to try to come up with a schedule. And that was very good for the defense, because that puts a limit on how long the prosecution has to indict people, how long they have to really form their case. And the defense was smiling. He was like, oh, that works for me. And the judge said to him, well, yeah, I know that works for you. That's great for you. And he says, yes, sir, Your Honor, it is good for me. So they want this exploratory, investigatory period of NXIVM to be as short as possible. And who could blame them for that? There was a lot of discussion about the implications of letting Keith Raniere have this bail, and what it would mean for the justice system, in that rich people could just buy their bail, and people who might not get bail, usually if they were poor, would get it if they were rich, if they could just make enough circumstances that would make themselves safe. And to me, that really was not the point. The point was that this guy is dangerous, regardless of how much money he is. He's dangerous because he's going to flee, and he's dangerous if he gets out of the United States and in some country where he can't extradite him, and he'll do this to someone else, a bunch of other women. This guy, I feel like we still don't have a grasp on how dangerous these guys are. And I think that we think that if they're not, if they're just, this is really like, if it is true, if the rumors that he's said about himself, if he's had people killed, if he's starved women, if he's had women branded, if he's brought in children to have sex with, Child sex trafficking is what he is charged with. And that did not come up once. Once again, the child trafficking did not come up once in this bail hearing. And that will tell you how much we really care about children in this country. That should be it. Oh, you were trafficking children? No, thank you for the bail. But that was not the case today. But it was a really interesting hearing. Thank you for sticking with me. I'm a little tired. My brain's a little foggy. But we'll see how it goes. And I will be attending as many of these as I possibly can. So thanks for tuning in.